It's Johnny Two-Face here, back with another reaction video. This time I'm reacting to Battle of Siffin 657 Rise of the Umayyad Caliphate by Kings and Generals. Now this is part of their early Muslim expansion documentary series, and if you haven't seen my reaction to the other episodes in this series, I suggest you check them out before checking this one out. And the usual disclaimer when I react to anything historical, if I don't show so much what is considered a proper reaction, is probably obvious. I don't know much about the subject at hand, and if I do know anything, I'll most likely pause the video to give my input or ask any curious questions, which hopefully will be answered in the comments. So with that being said, the link to the original video will be in the description down below. Please go and subscribe to Kings and Generals, another great history channel here on YouTube, and yeah, not much more I can add here. So captions on, let's get this up on screen, and let's see the rise of the Umayyad Caliphate. I'll probably pronounce that wrong, but yeah, let's just get on with it.
In our previous video, we covered the murder of Caliph Uthman and its dramatic political fallout, as the first challenge to the authority of his successor, Caliph Ali, took the form of a rebellion led by the Prophet's wife, Aisha, using the murder of his predecessor as its rallying cry. But as we move today to the Battle of Siffin and rebellion of Umayyad, we must first dial back the clock to before Uthman's demise and examine his nepotistic role in lifting his clan, the Umayyads, from a wealthy...
Just to double check, okay Google, what is the meaning of nepotism?
This is the definition of nepotism: the practice among those with power or influence of favoring relatives, friends, or associates, especially by giving them jobs.
Okay. Thank you, Google.
The Meccan family to the kingmakers of the Caliphate, and how this contributed to the civil wars that followed Uthman's death. The 8th century was a turbulent time for the Muslim Empire, but it wasn't only borders that were beginning to take shape. A new culture began to appear, changing everything from music to architecture to fine art. The artistic works coming from this period were largely a result of royal patronage, and this relationship between the ultra-wealthy and fine art still continues today. You see, the ultra-wealthy used art as a way to store their immense wealth, to protect it for future generations, to grow it,
going into an ad,
ensuring their legacies live on. However, even the most powerful rulers of history could never have dreamt of harnessing the power the average everyday citizen like you and I wield with that digital wonder in our possession called the smartphone. Because on that phone is an award-winning headline-making app, one that gives you access to the vast store of wealth in the $1.7 trillion art market. A Caesar of art. Just use our link in the description.
Feel free to check them out if you're interested.
And see important Regulation A disclosure.
Oh, and I'm sorry if you can hear my fan in the background, because it's really warm here where I am, so I apologize if that gets annoying, hearing my fan in the background.
At masterworks.io/cd. At its foundation, the Caliphate had been ruled and organized largely through the consensus of the companions in Medina. But for all Uthman's merits, his reign brought a definite shift away from the ideals of justice and Islamic unity the early Caliphate inherited from the Prophet. In pre-Islamic Arabia, life had been divided sharply along clan lines, but under the Caliphs Abu Bakr and Umar, brotherhood under Islam had superseded the tribal loyalties that existed before their faith. In his speech upon becoming the first Caliph, Abu Bakr had emphasized to the gathered Muslims of Medina that he was not the greatest among them, and that he would welcome the help and truthful advice of his subjects, even if it meant speaking against his own suggestions. And though Abu Bakr had adult sons, he passed the caliphate on to his advisor and fellow companion Umar, rather than attempt to create a ruling dynasty. Umar had famously lived the same humble lifestyle as caliph as he had before his coronation. sleeping on a bed of palm leaves and taking part in the same labors as his subjects in service of the needy. Under Uthman, however, the nepotistic clan politics of the pre-Islamic past began to return to the fore. Relatives of Uthman were frequently granted positions of wealth and authority, with his first foster brother, Walid ibn Uqba, and later his uncle, Sayyid ibn As.
Of course, I suppose nepotism is a type of corruption, in a way. It is, really. I could be wrong, but anyway.
Being given governorship of Kufa, and while few could accuse Abdullah ibn Sa'ad of incompetence after his conquests in North Africa and victories at sea in the Mediterranean, the fact he had replaced Amr ibn Alas, Egypt's conqueror and previous governor, largely by virtue of being another of Uthman's foster brothers, did much to stir discontent among other companions of the Prophet and long-serving Muslims of Medina, who saw themselves being denied advancement in favor of Uthman's Umayyad clan.
Wow.
Thanks to these and several other Umayyads appointed to prominent positions, the clan swiftly grew to become one of the most powerful political entities within the Caliphate, with governors of numerous far-flung provinces tied by family bonds and ready to resist any threat to the power they shared. The most prominent figure in this narrative, however, is Uthman's cousin, Muawiyah, a minor regional governor during Umar's reign, who Uthman granted lordship of all Syria. It had been on Muawiyah's suggestion that Uthman had ordered the Caliphate's navy built, and its raids on Cyprus, Rhodes and Crete brought significant wealth pouring into Syria's coffers, making Muawiyah the most powerful out of a powerful family, and the most likely rival to Ali in the wake of Uthman's killing. Conflict between Muawiyah and Ali has long been an inevitability, as one of the first actions Ali had taken after his election as Caliph had been to order Muawiyah and many of Uthman's other appointed governors deposed. Muawiyah alone had been sufficiently powerful and secure in his position to refuse the order, and those governors that had been successfully deposed had flocked to back Muawiyah with whatever wealth or support they could offer. Confident in his power, Muawiyah had publicly rebuked Ali over Uthman's murder and tacitly claimed the Caliphate as the murdered Caliph's next of kin, effectively a declaration of war. Muawiyah's position was further strengthened by an unlikely ally, Amr ibn Alas, the conqueror and former governor of Egypt. Despite Amr's previous enmity towards Uthman, his popularity in Egypt made him a perfect candidate to tear the richest province in the Caliphate out of Ali's hands. With Amr promised lifetime governorship of Egypt in exchange for his support, Muawiyah removed Egypt's current governor, Qais ibn Sa'd, through a masterful piece of deceit. He forged a letter from Qais to himself, agreeing to join his cause, and ensured Ali's spies learned of it. Deceived by this forgery, Ali deposed the competent and by most accounts loyal governor shortly after, with the inexperienced Muhammad ibn Abi Bakr taking his place too late to muster significant Egyptian support for Ali in the battle to come. Amr also helped Muawiyah forge an important alliance with the most powerful tribe of Yemen, the Himyar, who had once ruled a powerful independent kingdom in pre-Islamic times. With Amr as his closest advisor, allies across the Caliphate rallying to his banner, and Ali weakened by Aisha's recent rebellion, Muawiyah was in an incredibly secure position. Thus, when Caliph Ali departed Medina in late May 657 with his armies behind him to depose the recalcitrant governor, he would have a far tougher fight ahead of him than he perhaps expected. Before the two main armies met in battle, a series of cavalry pursuits and skirmishes took place at Harin and Raqqa, pitting Malik al-Ashtar against Abd al-Rahman ibn Khalid, son of the unrivaled Khalid ibn al-Walid, as Ali's army tested Muawiyah's strength and resolve, and found both unbending. The first true struggle would take place at Siffin, on the banks of the Euphrates River. When Ali's army arrived on June 5th, they found Syrian cavalry blocking them from reaching the only accessible watering area for miles. This was against the advice of Amr, and proved to be a blunder on Muawiyah's part. When rallying his armies for the campaign against Muawiyah, Ali had found it difficult to motivate his men. Many were reluctant to see so much more bloodshed between brothers in faith to bring a governor back into the fold. But Muawiyah's ill-advised attempt to deny his foes water in the desert heat lost him any sympathy he or his forces might have enjoyed in Ali's ranks, and set the stage for a vastly bloodier confrontation than had stained the sands at Basra. The numbers involved are a matter of debate. Al-Tabari puts Ali's army at 70,000, a likely inflated number, given that it counts more than 60,000 Kufans under his banner, while Al-Hassan had only been able to raise a tenth of that number for the Battle of the Camel. But even taking a more conservative estimate of 20 to 30,000 for Ali, with Muawiyah's army slightly larger, the Battle of Siffin was one of the largest and most impactful battles of Islamic history, and played out in a number of phases over the weeks to follow. Upon finding the accessible water blocked, Ali's advance guard, led by Al-Ash'ath ibn Qais, fell upon the Syrian force blocking their path with a vengeance, driving them back and securing the water for the thirsty army behind them. Following the Day of the Euphrates, as this small victory was known, the armies stood for 2 days of tense standoff and failed negotiation, followed by more than a week of daily raiding and personal duels between noble commanders, lasting until June 18th, each army testing the other's mettle but reluctant to commit its full strength. June 19th saw a new ceasefire agreement forged, lasting more than a month, in a last attempt to reach a peaceful agreement, or at least convince opposing leaders to defect. But these overtures were no more successful than the previous ones. Envoys went back and forth for weeks between the two armies with messages and bribes, but the stalemate remained largely unchanged. Finally, on July 26th, the two armies met in a battle that would last 3 days and 3 nights, nearly unbroken. The first day of the battle was inconclusive, mostly consisting of exchanges of arrows and cavalry raids, with casualties mounting, but neither side gaining an overwhelming advantage. The second day saw Muawiyah come very close to routing Ali, with Habib ibn Maslama leading a massive attack that drove Ali's right wing to flight and pushed hard against his center, driving his army into disarray before reinforcements led by Malik al-Ashtar could halt the Syrian advance. Abdullah ibn Budayl, who had been in command of Ali's right, attempted to press their momentary advantage by bringing his cavalry in a charge towards Muawiyah's tent, only to be surrounded and killed by Muawiyah's elite forces. Also killed was Ammar ibn Yasir, whose presence had so frightened Zubair in the Battle of the Camel, fulfilling, according to pro-Ali accounts, the supposed claim of the Prophet that Ammar would die at the hands of a wicked band of men. The third day saw Muawiyah redouble his efforts to break Ali's right wing, sending his Himyarite allies against it under the leadership of Ubayd Allah ibn Umar, the disgraced son of Caliph Umar, whose name had been tarnished by an unlawful honor killing, but whose parentage nevertheless made him a useful political prop for the would-be Caliph Muawiyah. This time, however, Ali's right held firm, killing both Ubayd Allah and Chief Dul Qalar of the Himyar, and inflicting terrible casualties. As the day drew on, the two armies were finally drawn into a general melee, the duels, maneuvers, and archery exchanges that had defined the previous days giving way to a confused clash of swords and lances that continued through much of the night. As morning approached, after the bloodiest night of the civil war, Ali's army appears to have the upper hand, having driven Muawiyah's forces back and even forced him to relocate his tent to a safer location after another charge on his camp. But it would not, in the end, be strength of arms that decided the battle's outcome. As morning arrived, a number of envoys from Muawiyah rode between the armies, Qur'ans on their lances as a flag of truce, appealing to Ali to allow binding arbitration to settle his and Muawiyah's dispute. Though Ali held the advantage in battle, many of his soldiers, exhausted after the long battle and reluctant to continue fighting their brothers in faith, felt the offer provided an honorable alternative to further fighting, and ignored the encouragement of Malik al-Ashtar and others to continue fighting. His hands tied, Ali accepted Muawiyah's truce and call for arbitration, bringing an end to the battle. While he had been on the verge of winning the war, Caliph Ali now stood on the brink of losing everything in the peace to follow. Each side nominated an arbitrator, Amr ibn al-As for Muawiyah, and strangely deposed Kufan governor Abu Musa al-Ashari for Ali, who despite his personal enmity with Ali, was a popular choice among Ali's largely Kufan army. The two armies departed the battlefield, with agreements for the two arbitrators to meet over the coming months, to judge the murder of Uthman and rightful Caliph fairly, with the Quran as their guide. However, a portion of Ali's supporters staunchly opposed the arbitration, seeing it as a betrayal of God to put the decision in the hands of fallible humans, rather than allowing God to pick a victor on the battlefield. Before Abu Musa departed for the first round of arbitration, two of Ali's followers, Zura ibn al-Burj and Hurkas ibn Zuhayr, confronted Ali, demanding he abandon the negotiations and return to war with Muawiyah. Ali rebuked them, claiming that he would have preferred to fight on at Siffin, but was now bound to honor the covenant he had reached. Unsatisfied, they took up the slogan, "Authority belongs to God alone," with new adherents converting to their viewpoint over the months to follow. Following the return of Ali's forces to Kufa, these Al-Khawarij, or Kharijites as they would later be called, would prove a major thorn in Ali's side, heckling and criticizing him as he led the prayers from the mosque and declaring both Ali and Muawiyah unfit to rule. As this discontentment grew, the two arbitrators met twice over the year that followed, both times for weeks on end, finally returning a verdict in Muawiyah's favor, ordering Ali deposed as Caliph in April of 658. Ali refused to abide by the decision, declaring it a political attack rather than a true religious judgment. But the decision greatly damaged his legitimacy and weakened his position in the ongoing Cold War against Muawiyah. Meanwhile in Kufa, the Kharijite movement was developing from a mere vocal opposition into a new rebellion, with Abdallah ibn Wahb taking command of the movement. Departing Kufa in small groups to avoid detection, Ibn Wahb regrouped his forces by the bridge crossing the Narawan, a great canal drawing water from the Tigris River northeast of Al-Madain. Meanwhile, other bands of Kharijite sympathizers across Iraq, having received secret letters from the leadership in Kufa, departed their homes to join Ibn Wahb's band, with savage fighting breaking out near Basra between loyalists to Ali and a band of 500 departing Kharijites. It seems Ibn Wahb intended to continue marching once his forces had assembled, to conquer Al-Madain or carve out an independent power base among the Zagros mountains. However, after compelling his remaining supporters to reaffirm their oaths of loyalty to him, Ali was quick to depart Kufa in pursuit of the Kharijites, arriving at Narawan in July 658. Despite their treachery, Ali attempted to avoid battle, pointing out that he now stood poised to return to war with Muawiyah as they had wished, and requesting they return to his cause. Some did, but a majority of the roughly 2,000 rebels remained stubbornly entrenched, leading to some disagreement within Ali's ranks. Many of his followers felt the Kharijites were a minor problem and should simply be ignored until after Muawiyah's defeat. But after several local villagers were slain by Kharijites, Ali's reaction would be swift, with his much larger army engaging the Kharijites on July 17th. Zealously devoted to their cause, the Kharijites did not falter, but now with less than 2,000 facing 14,000, the outcome could be in little doubt. Ali's horsemen formed up his front line under the command of Abu Ayyub al-Ansari, with archers and footmen lined up between them. When the Kharijites charged, Ali's horsemen split into two groups down the middle and rushed off to the left and right, allowing the archers to shower the onrushing Kharijites with arrows as the horsemen wheeled about and fell on their flanks. After a short, bloody, and largely one-sided confrontation, the rebel army was broken. Little of the mercy Ali had shown Aisha's rebels after the Battle of the Camel would be forthcoming, and the majority of the Kharijites to take the field would perish. The Battle of Narawan was a decisive victory for Ali, but also a hollow one, with the embattled Caliph forced to put his own former followers to the sword as Muawiyah grew ever more powerful. The following 2.5 years of uneasy truce saw Muawiyah take great strides, toppling Muhammad ibn Abi Bakr in Egypt and rewarding Amr ibn al-As's loyalty by returning him to power as promised, while also securing new alliances across the Caliphate, many now seeing him as the legitimate Caliph. By the beginning of 661, after receiving the counsel of his remaining supporters, Ali decided to embark on a second invasion of Syria while he still had the strength to challenge Muawiyah, embarking his forces in preparation for another campaign. The planned offensive would never take place, however. Meeting in Mecca, 3 Kharijite conspirators made a pact to assassinate the 3 men they viewed as responsible for the civil war: Ali, Muawiyah, and Amr. 2 of the 3 assassination attempts failed, but on January 28th, as Ali sat praying in the great mosque of Kufa, the 3rd assassin, Abd al-Rahman ibn Muljam, struck him from behind with a poisoned sword, mortally wounding the Caliph and avenging his comrades fallen at Narawan. With Ali dead, few remained who could deny Muawiyah the Caliphate. Ali's eldest son, al-Hassan, was pressured into surrendering his claim to the throne, and Muawiyah took power nearly unopposed. Beyond the simple change in leadership, the first fitna, as the civil war came to be known, would have a massive impact on Islam's history. It split a religious and cultural movement that, united, had conquered mighty empires. Even today, the divisions between the major sects of Islam can still be traced to the first fitna and the death of Ali. Ali's closest supporters denied the legitimacy of Muawiyah and his successors, elevating Ali and his family line to the role of divinely inspired imams. Known as the Party of Ali or Shi'at Ali, their movement remains strong today as Shia Islam, now divided into sects of its own. The majority of Muslims, accepting Muawiyah's ascension, are known as Sunni, hearkening to the Sunnah, the traditions and examples derived from the Prophet. Spreading and taking hold in North Africa, the Kharijites remained a malign.
Basically, it's sorry, let me just go back a bit. So basically, it's the Muslim version of the dividing Christianity between Protestants and Catholics, even though Christianity seems to have more divides, like the Orthodox Church, or whether it's Greek or Russian. And then there's different sects of Christianity across the globe. So, and as far as I can see, there's only like two sides to Islam, Shiite and Sunni. That's all I've seen anyway. But other religions, I'm not so sure. But still. But now I know where these two factions of Islam come from.
Spreading and taking hold in North Africa, the Kharijites remained a maligned, antagonistic force, often in conflict with their fellow Muslims and what they saw as corrupt, illegitimate caliphs. Though their sect remained small, it would be at the heart of numerous uprisings and rebellions during the Umayyad period and in the following centuries as well. It was from within their ranks, though, that the more moderate and neutralist Abadi community would arise, a faith now dominant in Oman. The nature of leadership in the Caliphate would be forever changed as well, with the elections that had chosen the first 4 caliphs giving way to dynastic succession. Power would remain within the Umayyad clan for the following 90 years, marking the end of the Rashidun Caliphate. Our series on early Islamic history will continue, so make sure you are subscribed and have pressed the bell button to see it. Please consider liking, commenting and sharing, it helps immensely. Our videos would be impossible without our kind patrons and YouTube channel members, whose ranks you can join via the...
And that'll do it. This has been another interesting video from Kings and Generals, and it's really not really anything I can add really. So if you like this reaction, please like, comment and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.